Right, 6 o'clock. Okay. Me too. Thanks for the reminder. Hello. Okay, so for the recording, welcome. We are ACI Course 2, Class 1. This is September 10th, 2023. And let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They're gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. And consider how the worldly ways we try fall short. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But either way, the person goes on to some other distress. How wonderful it would be if we could help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever. We are hoping this is possible. We've heard teachings that say it is. And so grow that wish. Grow it into a longing. And with that longing, turn your attention back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn, what we need to do. to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make these the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. Okay. So everyone who needed to completed their papers, and we will get them submitted to the dean if we haven't done that already. And so congratulations. Last course, we studied renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. Renunciation is coming to that deep understanding that nothing in our ordinary human lives can bring us the happiness we seek. Getting even a glimpse of that brings us a sense of almost overwhelm. In that, what's all this effort for? If even a little bit of pleasure that I managed to get is just going to wear out and leave me wanting for more. You know, if we left a student there, you know, they're going to get depressed. But it is the starting point to recognize there's nothing we can do in our world that will, in fact, bring us the happiness that we're looking for. And when we recognize that enough, and when we are tired enough of trying, and failing, either directly or indirectly, we start questioning and searching, looking for something, somebody that can either confirm or say, yes, it's true, and no, it's not necessary. It can come to an end. We learned that. Who did that? We learned that when we are so fed up with this broken world that we're thinking both day and night of stopping the cycle, we have found renunciation. And that sounds like a state of mind that ought to be obvious. And when we try to hold it, it's very difficult to hold in a very high level, obvious way. But as our spiritual practice grows, we become more and more aware that it really is in the back of our awareness constantly. Right? This world is broken, and unnecessarily so, all driven by a big mistake, and I'm determined to stop the mistake. Our determination to stop perpetuating the mistake starts from our own personal motivation. I'm sick of it. I've got to stop it. And then that is the window of opportunity to grow our hearts to recognize, well, if that's true for me, that's true for everybody, every human body. And if it's true for every human body, it's true for every conscious body, meaning bugs, gnats, worms, snakes. And it's true for any beings that might exist that I'm not even aware of. And when our renunciation of the great mistake is turned on to the suffering of those other beings in our world, that's the doorway to that bodhicitta, the second principle. Bodhicitta being, I want to reach my total enlightenment so that I can really help at least one other in that deep and ultimate way, let alone all others. Renunciation turned onto others makes our bodhicitta, starts making our bodhicitta. Every conscious being is in the same boat we are, the same sinking ship. Again, if we leave a student there, right, we're going to end up making a lot of depressed students. It's a stepping stone, a motivating stepping stone. Then the correct world view is growing our understanding into a direct experience of past and future lives. Once we have some kind of direct experience of a past life, nobody can really tell us differently. They can say, look, you were hallucinating. Look, you're, crazy. But come on. That experience was a valid one, right? I've had one, more than one. And thank goodness the person I was with when it was unfolding knew enough about those things to encourage me to let it go, right? The whole experience lasted about an hour. And if I didn't have her helping me, I would have thought I was going crazy and I would have shut it down, shut it off. And I wouldn't have benefited from it in the way I benefited by letting my friend guide me through it safely, in it safely. And it was spontaneous. And it was long before I knew anything about Buddhism. You know, I already knew a little bit about the idea of reincarnation, but not enough to really conceptualize it. But now nobody can tell me not. Okay? I really did experience. Anyway, so similarly, our correct worldview grows as we have these direct experiences of things that we didn't know for sure before. Then we cultivate or spontaneously experience something directly ourselves in a state of mind that's valid and alert. And that shows us a truth that we didn't know before. So past and future lives is one of them. The truth of karma is another. The truth of karma, karma being the law of cause and effect, but not the law of worldly cause and effect. Most of us understand a little bit about physics and chemistry and biology. We think we understand the causes for things, but those are just the apparent causes for things. And when we learn to really check logically into that relationship of worldly cause result, we find, oh my goodness, it can't work the way I believe that it works. And then again, we're at the state of, but it does, things do work. My key does start my car. But I see that if it doesn't do it every single time, it's not really the cause. And there are times when it doesn't work. Like once every 5 years, our battery goes dead. And no wonder it's hard to show the mistake to ourselves if it only fails once every 5 years. I'm not going to be questioning. My mind immediately says, oh, battery's dead, need a new battery. And that's my new reason. And that's just as invalid as the key starting the car. It's not something we'll figure out on our own. But once we hear it said, you know, right? The pen thing. And then the answer to, well, why do I see it as pen and dogs see it as chew toy? Why? And we hear the answer to that. Something in us clicks. And we understand there's a really key wisdom under that, even if we can't at that moment grasp it. Now, that doesn't happen for everybody. There are many people who have heard the pen thing, and they're not taking classes to figure out how to use it. So even the pen thing, there's nothing in it that's key to stopping suffering, which is why the pen story can be key to stopping the entire suffering of the world. Hooray. So correct worldview is growing this deep awareness that any experience I have in the now, which is the only time we can have experiences, has to have a cause. It is a result of some past cause. And we come to recognize that that past cause has to be similar, has to have come before. And I'm going to throw in my own has to. It has to be unique to me. When we connect the dot, we recognize, oh, it's my behavior towards others, how I perceive myself interacting with an other is the cause that will bring a result of how I experience another interacting with me. When we connect that dot, we realize, oh, then my current behavior is the source of my future experiences, every single one. And if that's true, I should be able to learn to behave in such a way that will create happiness for everybody forever, which includes me. And when we recognize, when all these pieces come together, we get that clearly enough that we're willing to change our habitual behaviors little by little and big by big to be consistent with creating the causes for the future world that we would like to live in. And as we make those changes in our own behavior, our whole outer world changes. Our whole outer world is changing moment by moment, always, anyway. And as we become more conscious planters of our karmic seeds, our world change is starting to be directed towards a certain goal. That goodness grows within us and will help us reach those direct experiences of a mental seed ripening into identity of an object, and from that experience ripen into the experience of ultimate reality directly. And that can ripen into the experience of seeing the face of every being and loving them. If we were imbued with that motivation when we went into our direct perception of ultimate reality, that experience will come out and happen. If we don't go into our direct experience of ultimate reality with that big wish, we won't necessarily have that heart opening. It doesn't come as a result of the seeing emptiness directly. It comes as a result of the growing of loving compassion with which we went into the direct perception of emptiness. Either way, as we come out of direct perception, we experience that series of realizations that come to be called the Four Arya Truths. And we are launched onto our path of habituation, where we're learning how to live according to what we now know is true. from direct personal experience. Correct worldview. Okay? It goes from growing correct in worldview to a pretty strong conviction about it, to a really high intellectual level knowing, to a direct experience knowing. And it's the direct experience that launches our career path to nirvana, if that was our goal, going into the experience, or Buddhahood, if that was our goal, going into the experience. So in order for our growing correct worldview to be correct worldview, our teachers teach us about that concept of no self, no self-existent self. But it's a really long story to be able to load those words with the correct understanding of what's meant by those words. We want to cultivate the state of knowing that anything we are experiencing is a result of our own past ways we have interacted with others, and nothing but that. To get there, Lord Buddha taught karma, the 12 links of dependent origination, and he taught emptiness, the prajna paramita. And when he first taught that, he used the term no self. Things have no self nature. Things have no nature of their own. And if we already knew what he was talking about, yeah, great. But if we didn't know what he was talking about, which how would be if it was the first time he ever taught it, our minds hear no nature and think no nature at all. So that first teaching on the no self nature of all existing things is still available to us by way of the Heart Sutra. So I want to read it to you. And I know you've studied it. No, I don't know whether we've done the Heart Sutra module yet, but it's coming. Maybe sooner than later. But when you hear me say the words, watch your mind struggle with the words. Don't struggle to get it right. Struggle to watch your mind go, what? How can that be? What? No eyes, no ears? I want you to catch the struggle. That doesn't make sense, Buddha. Because we're going to go and piece it back together through the rest of the 18 courses if you stick with me. All right, so just listen. The Heart Sutra, which is a short form of Prajna Paramita that I'm going to tell you about very shortly. Flavia, are you ready? Okay. Do you happen to have your Heart Sutra memorized in Spanish? Okay. All right. then I'll go slow. I did once upon a time. I memorized it in Spanish so that I could recite it to a group in El Paso that we had taught, who were mostly Spanish speakers. And I managed to get through it and forget it. Because like I had done my job, and it's like my brain just said, okay, enough. I couldn't do it now if my life depended on it. I'm so embarrassed to admit that. The Exalted One, the Lady of Conquest, the Sutra on the Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom. I bow first to all enlightened beings and to every warrior saint. Once I heard this teaching. The conqueror was staying on Vulture's Peak in the keep of the king. With him was a great gathering of monks and a great gathering of warriors saints. At a certain moment, the conqueror went into deep meditation on the part of the teachings known as the awareness of the profound. At that moment, too, did the realized being, the great warrior, the Lord of power, loving eyes, see into this one deep practice, the practice of the perfection of wisdom. He saw perfectly that the 5 heaps, the 5 parts of a person, were empty of any nature of their own. Then, by the power of the Enlightened One, the junior monk named Shariputra turned and asked this question of the great warrior, loving eyes, the realized one, the Lord of power. If any son or daughter of noble family hope to follow the deep practice of the perfection of wisdom, what would they have to do? This then is the answer that the Lord of power, the realized one, the great warrior, loving eyes, gave to the junior monk named Shariputra. Here, Shariputra, is what any son or daughter of noble family should see, who hopes to follow the deep practice of the perfection of wisdom. See first, all 5 heaps, all 5 parts of a person are free of any essence of their own. Your body is empty. Emptiness is your body. Emptiness is nothing but your body, and your body is nothing but emptiness. The same is true of your feelings and your ability to discriminate between things and the other factors that make you up, and all the different kinds of awareness that you possess. All of them are empty. And thus we can say, Shariputra, that every existing thing is emptiness. Nothing has any characteristic of its own. Nothing ever begins. Nothing ever ends. Nothing is ever impure. Nothing is ever pure, ever becomes pure. Nothing ever gets less, and nothing ever becomes more. And thus we can say, Shariputra, that with emptiness there is no body. There are no feelings. There is no ability to discriminate. There are none of the other factors that make you up. And there is no awareness. There are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing to smell, nothing to taste, nothing to touch, and nothing to think of. There is no part of you that sees. There is no part of you that is aware of what you see. And this is true all the way to the part of you that thinks, and the part of you that is aware that you are thinking. There is no misunderstanding your world. There is no stopping this misunderstanding. And the same is true all the way up to your old age and death, and to stopping your old age and death. There is no suffering. There is no source of this suffering. There is no stopping this suffering. There is no path to stopping this suffering. There is no knowledge. There is nothing to reach, and there is nothing not to reach. Thus it is, Shariputra, that warrior saints have nothing to reach. And because of this, they are able to practice the perfection of wisdom and stay in this perfection of wisdom. This frees them from every obstacle in their minds and frees them from all fears. They go beyond all wrong ways of thinking and reach to the ultimate end of nirvana. All the enlightened beings of the past, the present, and the future too follow this same perfection of wisdom and thus bring themselves to perfect enlightenment, to that matchless state of a totally enlightened Buddha. Thus are they the sacred words of the perfection of wisdom, the sacred words of great knowledge, sacred words of the unsurpassable, sacred words that are equal to the one beyond all equal, sacred words that put a final end to every form of pain, sacred words you should know are true, for false they cannot be, sacred words of the perfection of wisdom, which here I speak for you. Tayata, gate, gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhi Swaha. And thus it is, Shariputra, that great warrior saints must train themselves in the profound perfection of wisdom. With this, the conqueror stirred himself from his deep state of meditation. He turned to the great warrior, the realized one, loving eyes, the Lord of power, and blessed his words, saying, "True, true," he said, and true again. Thus it is, O son of noble family, and thus is it. One should follow the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have taught it. Every one of those gone thus rejoices in your words as I do. And when the conqueror had spoken thus, the junior monk Shariputra took joy. And the warrior, the realized one, loving eyes, the Lord of power, took joy as well. And all the assembled disciples took joy. And so did the entire world, with its gods and men and near gods and spirits too, take joy. All sang their praises of what the conqueror had spoken. So the reason I shared that is because ACI Course 2 is our beginning level study of the perfection of wisdom, the Prajna Paramita. The Heart Sutra is a teaching on the perfection of wisdom. In this course, classes 1 and 2, we'll talk about refuge, what it means, how we take it. It's the basis for being a Buddhist with the capital B. You know, when you fill out the form, are you Christian? Are you, and you put Buddhist. Technically, to be able to legitimately put that, we will have done a formal, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha ceremony. People that grow up Buddhist, I don't know if they ever do a ceremony. Like Christians get baptized. That kind of declares them. And I don't know about Buddhists. At another level, taking refuge has really nothing to do about those formal words making us into a formal Buddhist with capital B. That real taking refuge makes us into real Buddhas with a little b. You can still be affiliated with any other religion you like. And your understanding of what's taught in the Buddhist tradition will help your own religious tradition practices be more wisely informed and then more effective for whatever one's goal is in that tradition. In fact, probably so effective that you'll recognize that your goal can maybe even be bigger than what your tradition is hearing when it says what its goal is. I'm not saying they're wrong or limited, but I'm saying our wisdom will Take it higher, take it deeper. So refuge, what it is to take refuge. 2 classes in that. Then we'll spend 2 classes exploring the wish for enlightenment, bodhicitta. And it's a little tricky for this group because you've already been studying it and you already have the big picture. But it's useful to go back and do it step by step. Even if, or especially if we think, I don't need those baby steps, I've got the big step. Our big step will have more meaning if we go back and learn the baby steps. So we will do that in 2 classes. Then class 5 and 6, we will study this thing called nirvana, which should be so cut and dry and understandable. And when we get into it, it's like, whoa, that is like a greasy little pig. And yet it's important for us to understand what we mean by reaching nirvana, because it is either our goal or it's a step along the way to the goal. And it's helpful to know how to reach it, what it'll be like. So we'll investigate nirvana. Then we will see by the time we get there that the underlying theme that ties all of those together is the concept of emptiness, the no self nature of things and others and self. And so we'll spend 3 classes, 7, 8, and 9, learning the classical proofs of emptiness, using logic before we're taught logic, which we're not taught it until course 13, right? 3 years from now, 2.5 years from now, we'll learn how to learn those classes from course 2. So I'll do my best. Then class 10 is this sweet class addressing, who is this guy, Lord Maitreya? Avalokiteshvara, Lord Maitreya, Guanyin. Are they different? Are they the same? Who was it that was talking in that Heart Sutra? Who's Lord Maitreya? Where is he? All of those questions will become more clear questions at the end of that class. And then class 11, as you know, is the review class. And although for my beginning students, I give the review class, you guys are not my beginning students. I don't know about Sheila, but she qualifies as not beginning student because here she is in the evening class. And so you guys will teach me the review class, as you've done before. I require that you complete your homework, your quiz, and your meditation assignment from each class prior to the next class. Please just show it to me on your phone or email it. Just somehow tell me that you've done it, please. Or give me a really good excuse why you haven't done it. But be careful there, so that when you get to the end, all you need to do is review and get your final done. I want you to make completion seeds in these classes. And that's more important than really understanding the class perfectly. Getting it completed. So what I like you to do is you do your homework, open book, and then get out the answer key and compare the answer key and your answer and mark your own paper and be nice. If you got it completely wrong, mark off 5 points. If you have to adjust something, mark off half or 1. If it's pretty clear, your answer, their answer, excellent. Don't mark off anything. Grade your own. Then study your now correct homework. Then put it away and get out the quiz. The quiz questions come from the homeworks with only one exception. Somewhere along the line, not in course 2. Do your quiz, right? Closed book. Then get out your answer key and mark your quiz. Write down your meditation time, at least 1 for each class. Show it to me. And in the end, we'll compile everything, and off it will go to the dean, and you will get a certificate. Okay. When you get your little certificate, it'll be by email. Open it up, even print it out, and look at it. Show it to somebody else. And yay, I completed my course. So please do that when you get your ACI 1 certificate. It sounds silly, but it's seeds, important seeds. All right. So you will get recordings if you have to miss a class, but try not to. And even if you do miss, use the recording and do your homework and quiz before the next class, so you don't get behind, so that everybody's on the same page when we have a class. Take that responsibility, please. All right, all of that, we're finally ready. Oh, let's go ahead and do take our break. We're a little bit early, but let's take it now. I will pause the recording. Please help me remember to re-record.
Sarahni?
Yes, ma'am.
May I have the camera off at 7:45? I need to put in bed Joaquin.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yes. Lisa.
Nama, did you get the documents?
I did.
Okay. Should
Thank
I
you.
send to someone else or because Rashana mentioned that?
Rashna will let you know how to send them to the dean.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
They need to go to the dean.
Okay.
Okay. And once the dean knows that they're coming from you, right, that will speed the process. So I'm hoping that Rashna and you and the dean will get that connection going.
Okay. And for this course, I'm also taking over. Okay.
Yay! Thank you.
I mean, from now on, I am responsible for the 18 courses.
All right. Wow. That's a big.
Unless I die on the way, but yeah.
You can't die now because you're committed. Good. Thank you for that.
Is your husband okay? Is he checking emails or not?
Yeah, he is. Have you not?
Okay, because we had to postpone the event with him for next Saturday, not
Right.
Sunday, but he hasn't react to my email, so I don't know if he saw that or not.
Oh, he must think that he did because he's been talking to me about it.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
he's
I'm
still-
very sorry, but
Okay, yeah.
He has
didn't
another
work out.
class on the same day almost.
Yeah, he does.
So he's busy.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, he's aware. Thank you.
It was fun to translate because I know it in English, the Heart Sutra. So
good.
I did it 90 something percent correct.
All
I'm gonna
right.
have to check it out, but I think, but it was really nice to say those words.
Yay.
It was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Nice. Yes, thanks. I'm so awestruck by you translators.
I was thinking some people tell me that because now I can translate like maybe 2 hours or more
Yeah.
or interpret. And I was thinking, well, when I started, I couldn't. And I just made the effort to keep doing it, even though I felt, embarrassed or uncomfortable and all of that. And I was thinking it is the same effort that takes to do anything.
Yeah.
Any stupid thing that I do, all the stupid habits that I have took the same effort than learning this. So I'm so happy I
I
did
know.
this in between
Well,
all the stupid things that I
I know. You got something that's got some bang for its buck, right? Yay.
You know what I like, Flavio, when you translate to Spanish? That you say feminine and masculine, like women and men, like, like when they say, I don't know, because some words in English, or like you don't have articles, or you don't have feminine and masculine. And then Flavio always gives the two ones, not just the men one. And I'm like, yeah, feminism.
Oh, you give both. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was impressed
if it's
that you
possible.
take the
If it's
effort.
possible. Yeah. Now, and when it's a woman speaking, I try to speak mostly in feminine, just to make it fair. When it's a male teacher, then I say in a masculine. I translate in a masculine way. But if it's a woman, I try to do it in a feminine, just to, I don't know.
Cool.
So the guys can start feeling comfortable by the feminine too. I
Yes.
think that is a positive thing that they can just hear and they can feel identify both. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Which in my world, I see that happening. Cool. Okay, looks like we're back. My recording is on. My screen share is on. Look at this high-tech babe. And I can't quite see everybody at the same time. So here's our vocabulary. We'll do it and then undo it and come back again. Prajna paramita. Please say prajna paramita. Prajna paramita. In that Sanskrit, in Tibetan, Sharab ki paro tu chimpa. Sharab ki paro tu chimpa. It means perfection of wisdom, and we'll just leave it at that for now. The perfection of wisdom. The perfection of wisdom was originally taught by Shakyamuni Buddha during his teaching years 500 BC-ish in India. The Prajnaparamita, perfection of wisdom, refers to a group of teachings that he gave throughout his 51-year teaching career. He taught it many, many times, many, many versions of perfection of wisdom. There are only 3 main ones left. That 3 main perfection of wisdom sutras collection is called in Tibetan Gyedring Dusum. Gyedring Dusum. Gye means long. Dring means middle or medium. And Du means short. Sum means 3. So the 3, colon, the long, the medium, and the short. Perfection of wisdom teachings by Lord Buddha. The long sutra on Prajnaparamita, they say, is 100,000 verses. The medium one, called middle length Prajnaparamita, is 20,000 verses. And the short Prajnaparamita, they say, has 8,000 verses. But Geshe says it's more like lines, 8,000 lines. But the Heart Sutra doesn't have either 8,000 verses or 8,000 lines. It's very much shorter than that. So I don't exactly understand what they mean by there are just 3 Prajnaparamitas left. I don't know if there's multiple ones that are long, multiple ones that are medium, and multiple ones that are short, of which Heart Sutra is one of the shortest of the short. The shortest sutra, as I understand, says, once I heard this, the Buddha was staying in, right? They set up the whole sutra like they usually do. And they say, so-and-so asked Lord Buddha for a teaching on blah, blah, blah. And the Buddha says, and they all rejoice. And that's the sutra. It's a Prajnaparamita sutra. And I love teaching it. There's a whole course designed around it called Dorje Depa that you'll get someday. The Dusum, the short one. Now those sutras are all descriptions of meditations and stories about how beings gained their wisdom. Within these comes that story we've heard of the Bodhisattva who couldn't stop crying. And there's a short version of that, and there's a long version of that we'll get someday. The collection of all of the words of the Buddha are held as a collection in the Tibetan monastic tradition, and that collection is called the Kangyur. I remember that. I think King Kong and the biggest. And so Kong refers to Buddha. And Tengyur is the name for the collection of the commentaries on Lord Buddha's teachings. So Lord Buddha didn't write down the stuff that he taught. The beings that heard it apparently had minds that were so clean and concentrated that they just had to hear it once and they could repeat it verbatim. And then they would teach it. And those disciples also had these pure minds. And once Buddha left and they put their heads together, it's like, oh my gosh, he never wrote anything down. We better write this stuff down. And someone said, well, okay, I'll do the Heart Sutra. Okay, you do this one, you do that one. And between all of the disciples, the story goes, they got everything written down. Which is why they start with, you know, once I heard this. Because they're telling us, you know, I was there, I heard this one. I didn't just hear about it, I heard it directly. And then they write it down. And that's what becomes the Kongyur. Then later on, somebody's reading the Kongyur and saying, wow, this is cryptic, it's hard to understand. Let me write a commentary. Let me try to explain what I understand about it. And that, if it qualifies, gets drafted into the Tengyur collection. So commentaries and direct teachings of Buddha. Within this combination of these, the teachings that are about the perfection of wisdom get this nickname, the Yum. The Yum is the honorific word for mother. Yab is the honorific word for father. Yab. We'll hear sometimes the term Yabyum, which means father, mother, combination, but honorific, meaning the deity, father, mother. So here, Yum is the nickname for the Prajnaparamita scriptures, because emptiness understanding gives birth to Buddhas. So the Prajnaparamita scripture collection study is how we birth our Buddhahood. Now, that alone won't do it. But without that, nothing else we can do can birth our Buddhahood. Other practices can bring a lot of goodness, but it takes the Prajnaparamita, the study of it, the realization of it, to birth our own Buddha and to help others birth their own Buddha. All right. So the originals are really, really hard to read. Hard to understand, easy to read, hard to understand. And so the commentaries are written in an attempt to make them more accessible to the generations to come. And one very famous commentary that falls into this genre is the commentary that is nicknamed in Tibetan Gyen, which means ornament. And in the Sanskrit, it's the text called the Abhisamaya Alamkara. So when you separate the word, there's this a maya and then alamkara. But in more accurate Sanskrit, this would be all one word and there'd only be one a, but it'd be a long a. And then it would sound like Abhisamaya Alamkara. So it's a little easier as we're first learning to separate it into two different words, but it's not correct from a Sanskrit literary position. Abhisamaya Alamkara. It means jewel ornament of realization. It was written by Lord Maitreya. But Lord Maitreya is not a human in our human world. So how did he write a text that gets into the Tangyur? His student is Arya Asanga. Around 350 AD in India. We've heard his story. I won't say it, but I'm going to say it later in these classes. We understand that he set about to meet Lord Maitreya directly, and it took him years and years and years of practice to do it. And then when he finally did, Lord Maitreya says, okay, come with me. You know, you want to learn emptiness? Come. And the story is Asanga travels with him to Lord Maitreya's paradise and receives teachings there. And he receives 5 main teachings that Lord Maitreya says, like, take dictation, write this down. And then he sends those dictated notes with Asanga back into his world, which for Asanga, he thinks he's only there, I don't know, 5 days or so. But he gets back to his world and it's been 50 years, which probably means everybody he knew is gone, right? So Abhisamaya Alamkara is one of those texts that came out of Lord Maitreya teaching Arya Asanga about emptiness, which is why it's part of the collection of the Yun. Lord Maitreya, in the open teachings, is a very, very high-level bodhisattva who's hanging out in a Buddha paradise, waiting for the appropriate time for him to appear into this earth world as the next wheel-turning Buddha for humans, earth humans. And he's just waiting till the right time. And then he'll come down, finish his last bodhisattva life, become Buddha, and teach beings how to do it. But they say he will only teach open teachings, how to do it. Diamond Way teachings say, come on, he's already a full-on Buddha. But he is the next in line to come and teach in our world. But it's not like he has anything yet to do to become Buddha. And our last class, in this course is about that. What's the difference there? It's an opportunity to dabble in differences between Diamond Way and Sutra Way in an open teaching, because Lord Maitreya is an open teaching topic. Who is he? What's he going to do when he comes? We do have Abhisamaya Alamkara and commentaries on it by teachers through the ages. If we read the text directly, it's cryptic and difficult to understand. Even the early commentaries are cryptic and difficult to understand, not from their side, but from the fact that our own minds are so puny. Right? I can only really speak for my own. My own mind is so puny that to get out an English translation, even a good one, of the Abhisamaya Alamkara, I would miss most of the nuances of it. So again, there are commentaries, and then there are commentaries on the commentaries, as we'll learn. One of those commentaries that is still in existence was one that was written by someone named Master Haribhadra in 850 AD, also India practitioner. And that apparently isn't a very amazing commentary, but still too hard for somebody like me. And we go down further and find that there's a commentary by someone whose name is Kedrup Tempa Darge, who's a Sarahni monastic from 1493 to 1568. So often this man will be called Kedrup J, but it's not the Kedrup J who's Jetsun Kapa's main disciple. It's a student of his, which is why his name is Kedrup. So Kedrup Tempa Darge is like Jetsun Kapa's grandkid, or maybe even one down further, I'm not sure. Kedrup Tempa Darge wrote a commentary on Master Haribhadra's commentary on Abhisamaya Alamkara. This commentary is called the Clarification. Sorry, I didn't write it before. It's just titled Clarification. So Kedrup J writes this commentary on clarification. It's called An Analysis of the Perfection of Wisdom. This is Kedrup Tempa Darge's text. And that's the text that Sarahni Monastery uses to study the Prajna Paramita. They spend 12 years on it, apparently, and don't always finish it, apparently. Because in their study of it, first they memorize it, and then they go to classes to be taught the meaning of the verses, like verse by verse. And then they take a verse or two to the debate ground and they hash it out. They pull it apart. They try to understand it more deeply. And then they go back to class and discuss with the teacher what they came up with. And so maybe they stay on the same verse for a long time. But slowly, over 12 years, they plug away at this particular particular text. The Gelugpas have this reputation for being detail-oriented, debate fanatics, intellectual, dry, not so heart motivated practitioners. And Geshe-la defends them. He says, come on, if we want to permanently stop the suffering of all sentient beings, we need to dig into the details of our misunderstanding. And heart is nice, but it's not enough without this really sharp, defined, clear ability to cut away our misunderstanding. And it takes logic, learning to really think clearly to be able to do that. So the Gelugpas want us to learn the definitions, learn how to weed away our misunderstanding of things so that we can more clearly grow the ability to choose our own behavior choices accurate to the result we want to create. Is there something about being intellectually sharp and able to debate that in itself, from itself, will make us understand emptiness better? No, the answer to a question like that is always no, which is why it can help us. If our motivation for doing so is to weed away our mistaken views and grow the wisdom through which we can help others weed away their mistaken views and be able to help others weed away their mistaken views, right? It's like I can't stop that sequence. Our efforts to weed away mistaken views and grow more and more accurate views leads us to the behavior that creates the goodness that ripens as the realizations of those principles we're trying to grasp. And as we grow that goodness and work with it in our meditation time and contemplation time, our ability to go deeper in meditation and access that ultimate grows. It will come about as a result of seeds of goodness, of kindness. So the whole process goes together. Our study, our meditation, our contemplation, our service all roll together to grow the seeds necessary to gain the realizations necessary for our motivation of stopping suffering to actually become reality. I think I got that sentence right. So it takes training, just like any other learning takes training. It does happen that some little kid sits down at a piano bench and can play Mozart, right? It seems to be there's more of those lately. But for most of us, we can't even play chopsticks until we're taught how to do it. And then if we want to become a performance level pianist, we get a teacher, we do the drills, we train. We train way more than we perform until we reach a certain level. And then maybe we perform more than we train. But if we leave it at that, we'll stay at that certain level. And some would say, yes, I'm really good pianist. But so now I'll learn this different method, or I'll learn this different genre, or right? They keep pushing themselves to learn more, which requires more training, which technically, for that training to be successful, what do you have to also do? Help others' training be successful in some arena. It doesn't have to be, I have to teach somebody to play piano in order to learn to play piano. But if I teach somebody something that I know, oh, I know how to garden, I'll teach somebody gardening. And then I'll be able to learn to play the piano better, easier, faster, and using wisdom in this intentional way. So what is this thing, the perfection of wisdom? I'm going too slowly. We're not going to finish. We are going to finish. The perfection of wisdom, Prajna Paramita, Sherab Kiparo Tu Chimpa in Tibetan. It has a long definition and it has a short definition. You need the short definition for your homework on class 2. And that short definition is the perception of emptiness under the influence of the desire to help all sentient beings. The perception of emptiness under the influence of the desire to help all sentient beings. I think I would add to that the direct perception of emptiness under the influence of the desire to help all sentient beings. I'm going to give you the long definition as well, just so you can cook it. The long definition is the knowledge of a person of the greater way, with which they perceive emptiness, and which is imbued with the wish for enlightenment. Excuse me. The knowledge of a person of the greater way, with which they perceive emptiness, and which is imbued with the wish for enlightenment. Meaning bodhicitta. So in essence, the perfection of wisdom is reaching bodhicitta under the influence of bodhicitta. And we're going to talk about it more as we go on. We've heard, I believe, let me get rid of this, that when we are experiencing the direct perception of emptiness, that state of being in communion with ultimate reality is an experience that in which the distinction between subject, object, and interaction between it's not distinguishable. And they say it's so impossible to explain in words that they say it's like water poured into water. You can't right? Where's water A from water B? It's just all water. It's just all. Not even a me experiencing all. It's just all. But all as indistinguishable from any specific thing. Right? Words completely fail. So I'm not even supposed to try. Perceiving emptiness directly, yeah, it's like water poured into water. No distinction between self-other interaction between, but not nothing at all. Not non-existence. Not black. Not even blank, because there has to be something that's blank. Okay, beyond description. But try, right? Try to describe it to yourself and then say, no, not that. And we'll get closer to just saying it can't be described. So I won't even try. So being in it, your you is unaware. Because our you, our me, is part of deceptive reality, and there's no perceiving deceptive reality when we are ultimate reality. It's still karmic seeds ripening, which means they're going to wear out, which means we're going to come out of it. And when that process happens and subject-object interaction between stirs forth again, there's this period of time where the virtue of what we just did as we're coming out of it perceives directly those experiences that come to be known as the four Arya truths. The truth of suffering, the truth that all that suffering has a cause, the truth that the cause can be stopped, and the truth of how to do it. And by the end of those four, each of which have four, so those 16 experiences, which maybe takes up to 24 hours, you're back to perceiving your reality in the same old way. Me here, them there, them doing that to me. But because of your experience of truth, you know that your perception is mistaken, which means as you perceive things as coming at you, you're not believing that means that you're not replanting ignorance with every instant of perception like we are before we've had that experience. Which is why they say we're on the conveyor belt to either nirvana or Buddhahood, depending on what we went into that experience motivated by. So the experience of emptiness directly does not have in it, from it, the influence that will make us Buddhas. What it has is the wisdom of the true nature of things. What we went into that experience with colors our interpretation of what that experience was. So if we went into it with a mind imbued with the wish to reach total Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, when we come out of that experience, which did not include that state of mind for the benefit of all sentient beings, because it can't, because that's a deceptive state of mind. But when we come out of the direct perception, having gone into it with that mind of that goal, when we come out, we interpret that experience as, oh, that was my direct perception of ultimate reality. And now I'm on my conveyor belt to my Buddhahood. If we went into it with, I'm going to reach nirvana, the end of my mental afflictions forever, then when we come out of our experience, our interpretation is, oh, that's what I need to go on to reach nirvana. And nirvana we will reach. Or Buddhahood we will reach. Or, I don't know, you go into that experience with the wish to own a pair of red alligator boots. You know, you come out of it with the ability of knowing how to get your red alligator boots. I'm being intentionally ridiculous. But my guess is we're thinking that there's something in our direct perception of emptiness that it itself will make us into Buddhas. And it's empty also. What we go into it with colors what we come out of it with. It's an important piece that you don't actually teach your beginning students, right? So tomorrow morning's class is going to get this a bit differently. So that state of mind imbued with bodhicitta means that we've been working on our loving compassion for others, because we understand that all that suffering is based on a big mistake, our misunderstanding of where happiness really comes from. Like where our hearts are like so twisted, I've got to stop this big mistake because everybody's so steeped in it. And I need to see emptiness directly in order to be able to help them, so that I'm free of that doubt that I have until I have that experience. So the working at the level of growing our heart and wish to stop others' suffering is a big, important piece. And as we use that to grow our more and more kind behavior, steeped in our wish to help every being in that ultimate way, those seeds are pushing us towards reaching that direct perception of emptiness imbued with the mind that wants to help all beings, so that we come out of it on that conveyor belt to becoming the one who can help them in that deep and ultimate way. So we can have the direct perception of emptiness without bodhicitta. And we can have the direct perception of emptiness with a mind imbued in bodhicitta. But while we're in the direct perception, we will not be at all aware of either our bodhicitta or the emptiness until we get out of it. And then we realize the context within which we had that experience and how that will carry us along. We can also achieve bodhicitta, the heart opening bodhicitta, without an understanding of emptiness. That's not called perfected bodhicitta, even though right? We've had the experience. And the direct perception of emptiness is not the perfection of wisdom if it's had not with a mind imbued with the wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So when you put all that combination together, you can see emptiness directly, and that is not the perfection. That is not the perfection of wisdom. Seeing emptiness directly with a mind imbued in our wish to reach total Buddhahood is what makes that experience the perfection of wisdom. And when we come out of it, we now have the wisdom through which we practice the 6 perfections with wisdom. We can now do it. Whereas before, we were practicing those 6 perfections, but with just wisdom wannabe, with pretend wisdom. And doing that gathers the goodness to reach the wisdom that we then apply to those same behaviors that we trained in. And now they are, in fact, planting seeds for that are causes for our Buddhahood. After the direct perception of emptiness with bodhicitta in our mind, which is our perfection of wisdom, the 6th perfection. We can see emptiness directly without bodhicitta, and that is not called the perfection of wisdom. We can have bodhicitta without understanding emptiness, and that is not the perfection of bodhicitta. It is a bodhicitta, but it's not the one a Mahayanist is talking about as the perfection of wisdom. So it does get slippery, because the term bodhicitta means I want to reach my total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. It has those 2 factors. But then we use the term also to mean the wisdom from seeing emptiness directly. That's called our bodhicitta. And bodhicitta term is used for this heart-opening practice where you see the face of every being, that ultimate love, compassion experience. Bodhicitta word is used for all of those. Confusingly, but I think for a really good reason. Which is one of those things that's worth cooking. All right, so we're still doing some terminology. Arya means someone who's had the direct perception of emptiness with or without the bodhicitta in their heart. Arhat, sometimes written arhant with an N, means someone who has reached their nirvana, which requires going through the doorway of having experienced emptiness directly, regardless of bodhicitta or not. So typically, they would say, if your nirvana is your goal, and you see emptiness directly, you won't have a mind imbued with bodhicitta, because you're not aspiring to Buddhahood, you're aspiring to nirvanahood. And so your direct perception of emptiness experience puts you on the path to nirvana. And when you reach nirvana, you're called arhat. What it is to be nirvana is arhat. We'll do 2 classes about what it is. Freedom from all mental afflictions. So one can be an Arya, and one can be Arya Bodhisattva. And one can reach Arhat, and one can be Bodhisattva Arhat, which the Bodhisattva Arhat doesn't, well, I surmise Bodhisattva Arhat hardly even notices that they're at Arhat level, because they're so intent on reaching Buddhahood, and their freedom from mental afflictions completely just comes along for the ride. Whereas nirvana being the goal means we've reached it. And there's nothing more to do theoretically, but we'll learn later that there still is. Yes, Lisa.
When we reach nirvana, or when someone reaches nirvana and is say free of any mental affliction, does it mean also no physical body suffering, or it could be physical body suffering?
No, there'll be no suffering. There will still be a physical body. There can still be a physical body. And even if that physical body gets a head cold, for instance, there'll be no mental suffering from the head cold. And it takes them long
So
to
no suffering.
No suffering. Freedom from mental afflictions and any seeds for further.
Okay.
So no suffering. Yeah. But still experiences. So there are 3 levels of perfection of wisdom. Levels isn't right the correct word. More like 3 different meanings or ways that the perfection of wisdom is used. One of them is called the path perfection of wisdom. Path meaning the realization, not meaning moving along the path, but meaning making something real for us. The perfection of wisdom of the path is the perfection of wisdom in the mind of a being who's not yet Buddha. The path perfection of wisdom means the realization perfection of wisdom, which means an Arya Bodhisattva. They've had the direct perception, imbued with their wish to become Buddha in order to help all beings do it. And now that they're out of that, they have this realization. They have the path perfection of wisdom. Second is called the result, the perfection of wisdom of the result. This is the perfection of wisdom in the mind of a Buddha. When we are fully enlightened beings, do we lose our bodhicitta, our wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings? We still wish to be Buddha, even when we're Buddha? Yeah, we wish to remain Buddha. So we don't lose that bodhicitta. What about the bodhicitta where is the heart opening? We love everybody so much. Do we lose that when we're Buddha? No, it's culminated, right? And perpetuated effortlessly, spontaneously by our emanation being. And what about the bodhicitta referring to the direct perception of emptiness As Buddhas, we're directly perceiving the emptiness of all existence all the time. So maybe we finally have bodhicitta, that bodhicitta, complete. Whereas always before it was not quite all there, because it was on again, off again. Third is the perfection of wisdom of the books, meaning of the teachings, meaning of the Dharma, Chu in Tibetan. The perfection of wisdom of the books, of the teachings, is how we learn about the perfection of wisdom. But they are called nominal perfection of wisdom, in name only. Because they are not the perfection of wisdom, they're just about the perfection of wisdom. Diamond Cutter Sutra, Heart Sutra, ACI Course 6, about emptiness, about the perfection of wisdom. They're helpful, they are useful, but they are not seeing emptiness directly, are they? They are not the state of mind of a Buddha. The perfection of wisdom is a state of mind, a mental state. It's a realization. It's not a tangible book. It's not an audio. It's not, yeah. So how do we start? How do we get to the path perfection of wisdom? And then how do we get from the path perfection of wisdom to the perfection of wisdom of the result? We start with refuge. Refuge means we're looking for something to protect us, to help us. So even worldly refuge, in order to need a refuge, we perceive ourselves in some kind of trouble, some kind of distress that we can't fix ourselves. And it occurs to us that there's somebody or some place that could help us. And that belief makes us go there or call. Worldly refuge, your house is on fire. You call the fire station. You don't call your doctor. You don't call your mom, right, till afterwards. You call the ones who can and will come help. We've taken refuge in the fire department. They get there. They put out the fire. Have they really served us as refuge? Yeah, if our protection was stop the fire, but part of our house is burnt. There's smoke damage. Did our suffering go away? Well, everything didn't get destroyed, but they didn't fix it, and they didn't completely stop it. Our worldly refuges are so automatic and habitual, and they fall short, and we don't seem to notice. Right? The fire department did its job. Thank you, guys. I'm so grateful to you. You did a great job. But that would fall short if we went to the fire department for them to stop our suffering completely. They can't do that. Neither can the doctor, neither can the car mechanic, neither can your job, neither can our relationships. Nothing that we go to for refuge, to protection from our suffering, can really be the protection we're going for. If we are holding their ability to be protection in the wrong way. When we understand where protection really comes from, any one of them could even be our ultimate protection with wisdom. So what if our recognition that the danger that we are in is the ongoing suffering from being an ignorant being? Who and what can protect us from that? Do we even really believe that there's protection from our ignorance? It's really a good question to ask ourselves. Do we believe we can get free of suffering? Or are we really doing this for, I don't know, fooling ourselves? Or do we really believe? Is our desire to get free of suffering strong enough to override the doubt in our belief? But we all know what a struggle it is to maintain these ideas in the face of life. When we try to change and nothing changes. So two things need to be present for refuge. There must be fear, and there must be a belief that what we're going to for help can and will help us. In Buddhism, our fear is the fear of suffering of life. The three sufferings: obvious, suffering of change, pervasive. And our belief is that Buddha, Dharma, Sangha can and will help us stop those three. That requires learning about them, about the sufferings, about where they come from. And so we can apply ourselves to stopping creating more of them and be more acutely aware of our reaction to them so that we can decide to stop reacting and be responding instead. So what are those three refuges in the Buddhist teachings? There are three aspects to the refuge that we go to in order to stop those three sufferings. They're called the three jewels: Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel. And you know what? I'm not going to finish class. Which means you can't complete your homework. Don't you like that? But you can do most of it. Okay. Do what you can do, but that means you don't have to do your quiz. Off the hook. Until next time, I'll finish it in next class. I don't want to go over. I don't want to start the habit of going over. So I'm going to stop and we'll finish it at the beginning of next class. Three jewels. our refuge. So remember that person you wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class? What we learned, we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be really happy with yourself. Your effort to be here in class, to grapple with these ideas. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall that precious guide there with you. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them. Your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. That love, that compassion, that wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with wisdom. Filled with kindness. And may it be so. Stop recording. Okay. Luisa, in your room, you have a picture of that. Oh, I don't know what to say. The light being with the little Jesus inside. I used to carry that in a little card in my wallet.
This is from my aunt.
Yeah. Connection there.
I don't know. She believes in metaphysics. Yeah.
I really love that image.
Say good night.
Yeah, I'm good night. Come, you're still up. You're supposed to be in bed, Jemmy.
He refused.
Sweet.
Good night.
Listen, I need to
Good
make a
night.
new Zoom link for this class, so I'll make it and send it to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Lama, for your teaching.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.